This is the Giraffes Don't Eat Steak podcast, a show that brings you marketing stories, tips, hints, and much more. A treat for those who want to succeed in business or marketers who just want to learn. Hello, Alex.
Hello, how are you doing?
I am so excited. I'm so excited. Can you believe this is episode 50
Of our podcast.
of our podcast? Who thought we would get
No
here?
way. I mean, it seems to have arrived very, very quickly. It felt long. I tell you what felt longer. The period that we were talking about doing a podcast.
Well, that was 2.5 years that we were talking about it.
That felt like an eternity.
2.5 years. No, actually, 2.5 years from the time we recorded episode one. Remember, we recorded episode one and then we gave up for 2.5 years. And then we
Oh
came
yeah,
back.
that was right. Yeah, I went through various different variations of logos and names and music and did all of the stuff apart from
Actually recording. Yep,
recording.
actually recording. Well, here we are. We made it to episode 50. I am so, so excited.
All right, virtual high five.
Virtual high five. So, what
Nice.
are we doing for our 50th episode? I think you said we're going to play a game today.
Yeah, I thought we could just play this one off the cuff by the ear, because we never do that. Normally it's really well
really
structured,
prepped.
really well prepped. So I came across just an article that had like 100 marketing quotes from supposedly some some of them are famous people, some of them we may not have heard of, made up famous people, I'm not sure. Anyway, I thought I've got 100 quotes, so I'm going to ask you to randomly pick a number, and I'll read the quote and we can chat about the quote. We can pull it apart. I can say if we agree with it, if we don't agree with it, what we can learn from it, or if we've experienced it before, blah, 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 blah. And we could maybe do two or three if we have time.
Love it.
I'm going to give you the randomizer, the virtual randomizer that doesn't exist, but I'm passing it over to you now. And now it's on your desk. It's got 100 numbers in there. Just press play and it's going to go. When it stops, I want you to pick out a number.
Well, sorry, it has to be 18.
18. Okay.
18.
18. Okay. Ooh. I like this one. So this one is a very short one. Don't build links, build relationships. This was from Rand Fishkin, the founder of Spark Toro. I have to admit, I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is? Spark Toro? No, okay. But I quite like that. Don't build links, don't build relationships. And let me give you the description behind it. It says, link building can sometimes feel impersonal, and spammy. Instead, build genuine connections with influencers, partners, and customers. Nurturing these relationships cultivates a strong network and naturally increases opportunities for more organic link placements.
Okay. Well, I'm looking up Spark Turo now, just so we can have a look. And it's basically looks like a data tool. Find out which webcasts, podcasts, YouTube channels, and social networks your audience visits. See search keywords, trending keywords, and questions your audience searches for. Find the right social networks and build and export lists. So I guess if anybody knows about link building, it's Spark Turo.
These guys. Nice. So this is kind of like an SEO. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I would agree with the main concept of it, that building genuine relationships, whether it's physical, meeting someone and building that relationship, or if it's a relationship with customer through value building through your content, etc. I absolutely agree with that, rather than because there are like click farms and link farms that you can just buy to build, I guess, like vanity numbers, but actually the substance behind it means absolutely nothing. You've got no genuine customers who are interested in your product, that you just have numbers, as I said, vanity numbers,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
probably does have a place in some unethical way if you're trying to boost the profile of your business, as in just when someone comes to your Instagram page, for example, they see you've got 10,000 followers, they might be, oh, that's quite impressive. But it does nothing for your business. It has no substance behind it.
So I agree with the first part of what you were saying, but then not the second part. So I agree with this quote. I think relationships, but it's an interesting word, relationship, because building a relationship like through an email campaign, is that really a relationship? But anyway, that's a different debate. But just getting links, I agree with. I had this conversation last week where someone was talking about their measurement for a webinar is they want to get 300 people at their webinar. I'm like, no, that's easy. I can get 300 people there tomorrow. Like I can just go to my kids' school and ask all these kids to log on. And there's 300 people and it's a done deal. That's absolutely a wasted metric, right? You need to get quality, you need to get the right kind of person, you need to get deeper. So yeah, just links is not good enough. In terms of the second part of you would say, I think because you said unethical, and I'm not sure vanity metrics are always unethical. I think it depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? There are times when website visitors may be a good metric, um, and there's times when it's not. So I'm not sure about the
Well,
unethical word you
can I,
used.
let me maybe the context of what I had in my mind will make sense to you.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so I was doing some research for another business and who have a podcast and they're trying to build their following.
Yeah.
And I've been looking at various different um, kind of download and view um, enhancement
Stats.
things. So people who can help you boost your views and get your
Okay,
downloads
okay.
and sponsorships. So I came across various. Some of them were really unethical in the way that how they obtain the stats, obtain the downloads and views and subscribers, and another one was more ethical. And
Okay.
so what I mean by unethical is I mean they're not genuine. And then the other part of that, what I mean is a lot of podcasts are looking for sponsorship. And so if you're building your sponsorship based on numbers that aren't genuine customers and don't genuinely reflect your target, your audience, and then you're selling sponsorship off the back of that, in my mind, that's very unethical.
Okay, cool.
So
I
that's kind of that's
I
where
agree with that
that's where my mind
context.
was.
You kind of have to, I get stuck on words, Alex. You have to give me context because I got stuck on that word. I'm like, wait,
Yeah.
we saying website visitors is an unethical measurement? No.
No, not about the measurements. I mean, the what you're
The
using it for.
activity.
Yeah, like how you're obtaining it and what you're using it for. If you're
Cool.
that's where the ethics comes into it for me.
Happily agree with that. Happily agree.
All
Right. So we're picking another number.
right, so should I pick a random number?
You go now.
42. Okay. Number 42. Let's find where that is. Okay. Mine is kind of similar. Do the right thing as marketers to build trust. John Dick, Vice President of Marketing, HubSpot.
Oh. So trust is an interesting one. I had this really awesome conversation. Well, I went to this talk, you know me, I'm always trying to listen to different people about how to build trust. And this guy basically was challenging the know, like, and trust philosophy. His question was to the group was, who believes that a client has to trust you in order to buy from you? And I actually don't believe that. I don't believe someone has to trust you. Like if you've got a nail in the foot, you don't you just want help, right? You're not going to still take the time to vet and search or whatever. If you've got a pebble in the shoe, trust probably goes higher up the scale because you've got the time to go and compare and vet and look at stuff. But if you're hopping around for a dentist to fix it, you don't know anything about that dentist except he's got an opening at a time and can help you. That's all you know, and you're going to go, right? Do you trust him? So it's interesting, isn't it? Know, like, and trust, which
Mm.
is a lot of marketers build their philosophies on know, like, and trust.
I still believe that there's some element of the trust, even if it's that you're in a desperate situation. Your ability and time scale and patience to investigate, and if you like the person, trust them, is diminished somewhat. But I still think at some level you're making that decision. It's like if you go as a crowd of people, a few people, and you need help from somebody, you don't have any time to know about that person. You just take an instinct of this person subconsciously matches all the things I look in somebody that I trust. Like I find a lookalike of something I have in my mind. And so you're subconsciously choosing something that you trust.
I agree with you. But the theory here was that credibility and competence overtakes actual trust because then you're just looking for competence, right? Like, again, to my dentist example,
Mm.
I may take a quick glance at his star rating to see if he actually can do the job or how long is he, if he's been in business 1 day or 5 years or whatever, like just, you know, some sort of credibility check and competence check that you can actually do the job. But again, is it a relationship? Back to the previous question of relationship, because trust for me is about relationships, right? It's not a relationship. I'm going to give you money. It's a transaction. I'm going to give you money, and you're going to fix my tooth. And then I hope, and I've said this to my dentist, I hope I never see you again.
Yeah.
I hope I never see you again. And shame, he said the same back to me, so that was good. But
I think he was lying. He does want your money, really.
actually, this dentist was really, really interesting. Even with my numbed gum, I was telling about my skydive, and then the next time he saw me, he remembered and asked about it and asked how it went or whatever. I'm like, you must have seen so many people. I don't know if he took notes, like as he talks to people while they're like bumbling along, like she did a skydive or
It
whatever.
was part of his customer retention strategy.
Well, it worked. Well, no, I still hope I never see you again. But anyway, so that word trust, I think, is evolving, isn't it? And I think a while back, maybe not on this podcast, but you and I have definitely spoken about this evolution of the word trust, where, when I was growing up, maybe not you, but when I was growing up, stranger danger was a thing. You would never get into a stranger's car. You would never go to a stranger's house. You would never, like, you just, now, oh, I get into an Uber or whatever with a total stranger all the time. It's just like hop in, like, here I am. I need to get from A to B. I go stay at an Airbnb, some stranger's house. I don't even think twice about it. It just happens now, right?
I mean, Uber's a funny one though, because you trust Uber, but you don't trust the driver.
Yeah,
You
maybe.
trust the brand. You trust the brand, don't you? And you're trusting that they are doing. We don't really know, but you're trusting that they've done all of their due diligence and they are looking out for you and they've got your back. Blah 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 blah. You don't
But
necessarily driver.
I know, but I'm trusting them based on nothing. I don't know them. Who's them? Who's the them, right? I don't know them. My parents don't know them. When I lived in a small town in Velkom, the day I had my first cigarette, I'll never remember this. My dad knew before I even got home, my dad knew. Like somehow word of mouth had got, and this is before cell phones, right? But before I even walked in the door, someone had got word to my father that Erica had a cigarette that day. And it was that because everyone knew everyone. Everyone knew who I was. They knew who my father was. They knew who my parents, they knew who my priest was, right? They knew where I lived. That level of trust versus I trust this company that I've got no clue who's behind it. I don't know, but
That's the power of branding.
I'm willing to jump in their car with some stranger and trust that they're going to take me from A to Z, right? It's different. It's different.
It is different. It is different, but they're still touching all of the key indicators that we need as a human. You know, when we're even if it's a human relationship, like physical relationship, there's a few things that we tick off to say, okay, we trust this person. Brands are still doing that with us. Like when
Yeah,
you look at a person and you want to know if you trust them, maybe one of the things is, do they have a good social network of friends and do they have good family, etc. That might be one thing that you think, oh, maybe I can trust that person because it shows they've got other relationships, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of the same with client testimonials, customer base, repeat customers. You're hearing about other people talking about that brand. That's like one of the things that you're ticking off to say, oh, I can trust this person, right?
absolutely. And
So they're still doing the same things, but just in a slightly different format.
but it's also so important that businesses think about that, right? So often I see a business, and I know it's a small business, but someone with a Gmail email account as their primary contact.
Yeah. I hate to say I do this,
It's
I have the exact same thing. Yeah.
it just leaves you with a little bit of doubt, right? Like they could be fantastic, but you get an itch, right? And you're like, oh, and it's thinking through all these things, like, what am I doing for my business that is going to put doubt in my potential clients' minds? Because all of that doubt are burden barriers to purchase. It's
Mm,
barriers to purchase, and you've got to fight much harder then to overcome those. Whereas just having, I know it's a little bit more money, but just having your URL as your email goes that one step further, right? Like one less barrier, just one less barrier to the trust machine. Because as you say, this trust machine, it's still there, but it's more complex now. It's different. And we need to
mm,
think about how that plays.
yeah. Can't you do it for free? Create an alias on Gmail though.
Yeah, alias, it's just little things, right?
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that point, by the way. I've seen many times businesses with just like, I don't know, David at gmail.com.
Or I'm sorry, Hotmail for me is worse.
Yeah.
Like I can still accept Gmail, but Hotmail, I'm out.
No, I agree. I don't know why they've got such a bad rep.
Well,
Hotmail.
I have to say, all my catfish were hotmailers.
Mm,
Well, not all, but most of my catfish were hotmailers. So
yeah.
maybe that's where I get my immediate like from. It's like catfish, hotmail.
No, I also have the same thing with Hotmail. When I see Hotmail, I'm like, why have you got Hotmail? There's something suspicious about that. Gmail for some reason seems better. Okay, cool. Give me another number into the randomizer.
88.
88. God, now I have to scroll all the way down to the bottom.
Well, we got to prove that you have got your 100. That you don't just have like five questions there and you're pretending.
All right, okay. Storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today. That's Robert McKee, an author. And the description is, with so many messages vying for our attention simultaneously, stories have become one of the most powerful ways to cut through the noise and create an impactful narrative.
So that's a bit of an unfair one because you know I'm a Toastmaster. And storytelling is everything, right? From the stories we remember from children, but it's positive and negative. and I've got I've got a daughter now. I'm unpacking the horrors of some of the fairy tales that I was taught, that she was taught, and the messages behind them, right? Like, oh, I kill all the fairy tales. But
Can you give me an example?
well, think about Cinderella. That's an easy one, right? So
Okay.
Cinderella was enslaved by her stepmother. She had to clean the house and do all the stuff. And then the prince came and saved her. But
Yeah.
she went to the ball, she lost her shoe, and the guy didn't recognize her until he put the shoe back on her foot and then only recognized her. So, I mean, think of all those stories. Number one for women is that it has to be a guy who saves you. You can't save yourself. You can't, Cinderella couldn't just leave. She couldn't walk out of the situation. She couldn't just say, I'm done. But also that this guy, this part irritates me. He didn't recognize her face. He only recognized her when he put the shoe on her foot. Like, come on.
Well, in his defense, maybe he just had a massive foot fetish and he just wasn't into faces. It just wasn't his thing.
Because the story is he went with a slipper around and fitted on the foot of every single girl in the kingdom. Like,
Yeah.
really? You couldn't just do a quick scan going, not
Yeah,
you lot.
that's a really good point. It's
He had
extremely
to put it on
underdeveloped.
everyone's foot. Like, okay, she was blonde. All the brunettes step aside. She was skinny. Can all the fat girls step aside? Like, was there not any obvious ones? Like, really? Anyway, so there's an example, but it's a story that stood the test of time, right? Like, it's carried on from generation to generation. We tell it to our kids, and our kids can recite it to their kids, right? It gets passed on. And that's the power of storytelling is it touches an emotion, it gets under your skin, and you remember it so much easier than facts.
Yeah. And what about I think I sent you like a little short reel the other day about Coca-Cola where they noticed that the sales of Coca-Cola the majority of them came in summertime,
Yeah.
but in wintertime they were really struggling to achieve the kind of sales they wanted to, and I think they were losing out to I don't know other drinks or other competitors or something like that. And it's because they realized people associated drinking Coca-Cola to hot weather,
Yep.
and that's when they that's when they started to link Coca-Cola and the red and with Santa Claus, which is it was actually I think it was like Norwegian or Finn St. Nicholas. That was what people believed in back then around Christmas time, and then they
Yep.
they took that figure, made him all red,
And fat.
put fat and everything, yeah, and bringing presents, i.e. Coca-Cola, and running a huge campaign on that. Anyway, basically changing the narrative of Christmas and
Exactly.
Coca-Cola, and even today,
Children believe in Father Christmas.
yeah, exactly. And
And it's
I
all
also,
thanks to Coca-Cola.
and I also associate Coca-Cola with the big red lorries
Yeah.
and with the lights coming across, holidays are coming, holidays are coming. I think of that as well, and it's huge. I don't know. I'm not a big Coca-Cola drinker. I rarely drink it, but I can see in my mind. I can see Coca-Cola in all parts of the year, and
Absolutely.
that's got nothing to do with the drink.
Nothing.
It
Nothing.
has
It's a
everything to
story.
do with the story they created. By the way, that is absolutely genius.
It is genius. It is
That is
genius.
absolute genius.
The other genius one is diamonds,
Yeah.
where the story was created that diamonds were rare and that you couldn't find them, and therefore they have to be used for like engagement and special events and stuff. And this is still what people believe today, and it's not true. It's, they okay, the price is through the roof now, so the diamond companies are milking it, but they weren't that rare.
Mm.
It
Maybe
was,
they're rare now because everyone's
yeah,
bought
because
them.
they've all been dug out. But
Yeah.
so, for example, tanzanite is much rarer than diamonds,
But it's
but it doesn't have the same
a
bling
demand.
story around it, right?
Mm. Yeah,
So yeah, stories are super, super powerful.
yeah, that is very important. I think, and we all, even just with humans, right? If somebody has an interesting story, you're attracted to
Engaged.
them. Yeah, you're attracted to them by somehow, right?
Yeah,
When,
because you want to hear the rest.
yeah, exactly. Think of like some of your just your network of good friends and things. The ones that you really get on with have something interesting to say,
Yeah.
something to do.
But also, like I was thinking about this the other day. My deepest relationships all have a kickoff story. There's always a story of basically the day we became friends, right? Like
Yeah,
we may have known each other as acquaintances for ages before that, but then there's the
something happened.
story,
Yeah,
the day
yeah,
that we became friends.
it's true.
And our friend Lukash, and we'll hopefully get him on the podcast soon. I think I've shared this story before, but the day Lukash and I became friends was we had been on the road together for a week. We'd been traveling to Hungary and Poland and Czech. Like literally, we were doing shoots in the morning. So it was TV commercials, like up at 6, doing the shoot, and then late night flights to get to the next place. It was full on. And we were at the last stop, which was Hungary, and we landed at midnight and at this little airport in Budapest and standing waiting for our suitcases. And Lukash's suitcase came and mine didn't. And I was so finished. I was tired. I was emotionally battered because it was just people for a week, people I didn't know, like it was just so much. So I just stood and had a good cry. Must admit, I was just like, no. And Lukash just took care of me. He made sure we signed the forms for the lost luggage. He got me in an Uber because I just was not in a state to do anything. I just wanted to go home. Got me checked in at the hotel, got me into my room. And then I was sitting on my bed thinking, what am I going to do? And the next thing, he knocked on my door. It was like 2 in the morning by then. And he'd gone to go and find an all night petrol station and had bought me soap and shampoo and a hairbrush and a toothbrush and just anything I could need to replace what was in my luggage. Like the sweetest thing. And then he said, is there anything else I need? And I said with a sob, clean underwear. And then he looked at me and he pulled out his phone and he said, wow, there is an all night sex shop, but I wasn't sure of your size. So we can go to that. And then I started laughing and said, well, no, look, at no point am I going to an all night sex shop with you in Budapest. And everything became better, right? And that was the day Lucas and I became best friends.
That's a lovely story.
I do love that story. And we always used to joke whenever we got to Budapest, Lucas would try and get me to that all night sex shop again. Still haven't been, Lucas, still haven't been.
That's brilliant. So, well, it's very clear that storytelling is so that's going to be an agree then. We agree
We
with that
absolutely agree.
statement.
Well, we've agreed with all three, right?
That's true. We were wavering a little bit on the first one, but we agreed. No, we agreed.
Yeah, we did agree.
All right, so do one last one, fourth one to wrap it up.
All right, let's go for it.
All right, so I'm gonna go for the number. What number did I say before? 42. I'm gonna reverse it. 42, I'm gonna say 24. Okay, no, I'm gonna make myself go all the way up. 24. Um, okay, this one is from Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple. Master the topic, the message, and the delivery. So the description is you will only convince others if you are convinced and knowledgeable yourself. Be sure you know what you're selling, why you're selling it, and how it can help your prospects.
Well, you have to agree with Steve Jobs. I mean, who could argue with Steve Jobs? That's like a fantastic quote.
Well, I mean, where can you go wrong with knowing what you're selling, why you're selling it, and who your prospects are?
I know it's like, yes. But how often do we find people who, number one, don't know their prospects, right?
Well,
So
that's
they
that's what I
get
was
the
going to
target
say.
audience wrong, or even worse, they're selling the wrong thing, right? They're selling features, like especially IT companies, SaaS companies. They're selling a tool, which is not what people want at all. You're selling the wrong thing. Get your message right, like fix to the pain point of the audience, and then you've got a winner. So yes, Steve Jobs, yes, we agree.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's not. And some of the biggest culprits are the people who have invented the product, the service, or whatever themselves, because
Yeah.
looking at it from a geeky point of view, the technical side of what they did and why it's so brilliant, but they're missing the reason why people actually like it and why it's useful to them.
No, actually, and yeah, and I think it's worse if you're a product owner because you know too much.
Yeah, right.
You need to take a step back to your audience who doesn't know as much as you, and speak in that language, right? No one wants to know the science behind how stuff is made, really. They want to
Yeah,
know what it does. How does it help?
no, exactly. I was working on this incredibly fun project the other day. I say fun because it wasn't fun. Where the engineering team were doing a presentation to a client, and it was a 80-page PowerPoint document, and they basically were trying to create like summaries and things for the client, and they just couldn't do it because they were just so heavily involved in it, an 80-page like document of death. So for the privilege I had was to create bite-sized summary of it, basically. And it was much easier for me to do it because I looked at it from a complete. By the way, their client was not technical, not an engineering person.
Hmm.
So not only what did I have fresh eyes, but I also had a better understanding of someone who
Knew
doesn't
nothing.
have, yeah, who doesn't have an engineering background. Um, so I was able to, take a look out and say, well, what do I want to know? What would she want to know? And they could guide me to those pieces, and then we just pulled those out and then put them into the summary. But that's a good example of A, knowing too much, and B, being focused too deep on it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yes, Steve Jobs, we agree.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve Jobs.
Well, thanks for a great game, Alex. I think that was an awesome way for us to celebrate our 50th. And what the story we told ourselves is we don't think anyone will listen to this. But guess what? We were wrong.
Yeah. It's great. It's been a very quick 50 episodes from my side.
Well,
Um,
I look
but here's
forward to
to the next.
doing the next 50 with you, Maddie.
Here's to the next, to my non-alcoholic drink here, which is very sad. It is Monday morning, so can't complain. Okay, cool. Well, see
See you,
you on number 51.
see you later. Bye.
Bye-bye. That wraps up this episode of Giraffes Don't Eat Steak. Thanks for joining us. I hope you found value in our discussion and got some new ideas to apply to your own business. Tune in next week for another round of marketing insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate you listening. Catch you next time on Giraffes Don't Eat Steak.